While it is tempting to think that positivity is always a good thing, the plain and simple truth is, it just isn't true. There is such a thing as damaging and toxic positivity, and a person can do a lot of damage with their positivity. And one area where this is especially true is in parenting. When a parent uses positivity as a coping mechanism, they can and often do destroy their child's life. I invite you to do a deep dive with me into this positivity parent nightmare, so that this is one nightmare that no child in the future ever has to endure. You have a strong value or something that you deeply so what I see when we do this little exercise just now is so many of you have these deep, strong desires and you feel like you're heading against them. Being able to recognize and take in the positive in life is a valuable skill that will serve you well, but just like anything, positivity can be misused, and I mean severely misused. This is especially true when positivity is something that a person uses as a coping mechanism. Sometimes a parent feels they cannot handle reality, and so they use positivity to deny reality. They use positivity essentially as a tool of avoidance. They create a positive overlay reality for themselves that makes their life feel good, or at the very least, manageable. When a parent does this, the truth is they are using a strategy that they used when they were little to escape from the reality of their own painful childhood. Their own childhood experience was painful, right? They felt vulnerable and powerless to making it better. The adults in their life did not bother to really attune to them and make changes so as to make their experience better. Because they could not make it better, they took to pretending as a means to make their life feel better. They took to the art of creating mental overlays. To understand overlays, I want you to imagine a little girl in a home with an anxious alcoholic father and a codependent mother. There are always furious outbursts in the home, and the child is expected to be a helper and to be a pleaser. The child has to find some way of coping with this experience. So, let's say that she decides to pretend and focus on things that feel good and craft a narrative of reality that feels better. She pretends that she's an angel that was sent from heaven to help mommy and daddy to be okay. She wears around toy angel wings when she's around the house and around the property. And she pretends to have special powers that help people to love each other. When her dad takes her to the store to get candy, she tells herself the story that she's a daddy's girl. When he flies into a rage at night, she climbs on the roof and sits outside and stares into space, thinking about how incredibly wonderful it is that so many planets could exist out there with other life on it. When her mother fails to protect her and fails to set boundaries for her and on her behalf, she focuses on how peaceful and how Christ-like her mother is because she turns the other cheek. For a child in this scenario, their only way to feel okay and to continue to be close with the people upon whom their life depends and to belong with them is to disconnect from their own pain and disconnect from the negative aspects of their reality. After all, to stay connected would be far too painful and scary and powerless and vulnerable. They choose to unattune to it, and by doing so, they choose to go into denial and out of reality. The mind has the capacity to play pretend and reframe things and focus only on the positive to such a degree that every element of reality can be seen as a different element of our fantasy reality, a fantasy reality that our mental and emotional survival depends on. This fantasy reality sits over the actual reality like an overlay. It is common for children to use this coping technique. Why? Because childhood is inherently and uniquely such a powerless experience for so many children. Children cannot escape. They cannot make choices to change their reality, and so they often end up developing coping mechanisms, like overlays, so as to not feel stuck in a tormenting reality where they have no control. But this coping mechanism continues far past childhood, unfortunately. It extends past when a person actually does have the capacity to change their reality. When this is the case, this coping mechanism gets people into serious trouble. I mean, really serious trouble. If you want to learn more about this, you can watch 2 of my videos. The first, titled Overlay What Prevents You from Having a Real Relationship, and 8 Hidden Dangers of Reframing Your Thoughts. When a person uses this coping mechanism and goes on to have children, it is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because when the going gets tough, including when the going gets tough with their children, they will use this coping mechanism. So what happens when they use this coping mechanism as a parent? Well, they choose to leave their child in reality, in pain, and alone. They abandon their child without ever physically leaving them, and they end up doing all the wrong things. By doing this, they put their child in the exact same position that they in fact were in their childhood, thereby putting the child in the position to choose to be in pain and alone, or to do what they did, choose to feel better and belong by creating a positive overlay of their own. Perhaps even adopting their parents' overlay. This becomes an intergenerational cycle, with some children joining up with the bandwagon and coping in this way, and others becoming the family scapegoats, the family problems, and failing to thrive. When a parent copes with positivity, any painful reality the parent does not want to acknowledge will be denied, will be ignored, will be suppressed, will be minimized, will be negated, will be distracted from. This includes any painful reality about their own child. The child is gaslit about the painful reality and is also abandoned to deal with that painful reality by themselves. If the child does not validate this parent's better feeling fantasy reality, the child is then made the problem. The parent fails to face the negative element of reality, meet the child where he or she is, and co-regulate with the child. The parent also fails to respond to the child or to the issue in the right way because of it. They don't change anything so as to improve the actuality of the situation that is causing distress for the child. And as a result of this chosen unattunement, the parent starts to feel like they can do nothing right. And guess what? They can't. They cannot, because you cannot do the right thing according to what is actually happening if you are in a different reality about what is happening. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Assuming a child does not or cannot follow suit with a parent and craft a fantasy reality that validates their parent's fantasy reality, the child will fail to thrive. The child will be in hell all by themselves, with a parent who is feeling pretty good, actually, except, of course, for the fact that their child is so unhappy for no obvious reason. The child soon finds themselves in a nightmare built for one. And because their pain is not being seen, heard, felt, understood, and therefore is not being responded to correctly. In fact, to the exact opposite, it is being denied, dismissed, negated, suppressed, and they're being neglected. The child resorts to behaviors like cutting or other forms of self-injury, drug addiction, video game addiction, eating disorders, social withdrawal and isolation, aggression, oppositional behavior, all the way to even suicide and murder. So that you can understand this better, here is an example. Bonnie has a daughter named Chloe. Bonnie had children because she imagined the incredible unconditional love that she would get from them. So when Chloe would get upset at Bonnie as a young toddler for this or that and wanted to do things all by herself, Bonnie felt like she was being denied the approval and love she deserved and always wanted and always thought should be there between herself and any daughter that she had. Bonnie reacted very badly to this. She withdrew and acted exasperated. This only caused Chloe to attach to her father instead and avoid her mother. Their relationship got worse and worse. It became downright adversarial, to be honest. To make matters worse, the family lived in an area where Chloe could not make friends because their family was a different religion from everyone else. To make matters worse, Chloe's father was very disengaged when it came to parenting. To make matters worse, Chloe was molested by a neighbor. Okay, so bottom line is Chloe is really, really unhappy because of what is happening in her relationships in her life, including those with her family. In middle school, she started to wear all black. She would get into fights nearly every day with Bonnie. She also started to cut and listen to death metal music. Anytime Bonnie noticed Chloe's unhappiness, she felt that familiar feeling of not being able to deal with it emotionally, so she resorted to her go-to coping mechanism, which was positivity. Bonnie would write about all the things that were going right in her life in a journal. She would sit outside and appreciate the sunset. She would tell herself that Chloe was going through a phase like all teens do, and that Chloe was exhibiting all of these behaviors because she is an artist, and as we all know, artists are a little bit tormented. She would read books about moms and daughters that ended up close after years of struggle. She would go to sleep early so she could dream about good things, even if her daughter Chloe was awake alone at night. She would read the birthday letters that Chloe had written her from elementary school as proof that there was just so much love there between them. Bonnie would tell Chloe to be grateful for what she had and to watch the sunset, just like she loved to do. She would buy her books about being a HSP, hypersensitive person. She took her to a psychiatrist who could balance her brain out right because Bonnie had provided Chloe with such a privileged life, there could be no other reason for Chloe's unhappiness than faulty brain chemistry. After all, depression did run in Chloe's father's family. Bonnie would not look at the actual painful reality, her daughter's reality. As a result, Bonnie escaped from her own child into a feel-good reality that she could live in. And Chloe was left alone in pain in an emotionally tormenting situation she could not change. And because of the chosen unattunement, everything Bonnie did to respond to the situation with her daughter was out of reality. And so it made things progressively worse rather than better. Okay, so fast forward. Chloe moved to New York right out of high school. After a very serious suicide attempt, she is still struggling with an eating disorder and neglectful relationships. She has such a bad relationship with her mother that she often tells her friends that she doesn't even know whether she's going to cry when her mother dies. Bonnie is painfully envious of the relationship that her friends have with their daughters. She still cannot understand what she did to have such a difficult and distant relationship with her daughter, especially after everything that she did for her. But you don't need to worry that much because Bonnie loves to tell herself that there is so much we don't understand about this universe. It may even be something that has to do with a previous life, not even this one. The reality of a parent who copes with positive overlays is that they are choosing their own comfort over the well-being of their child. They are choosing not to have a real relationship with their child in the process. They are choosing to occupy a different, more feel-good reality from the one that their child is occupying. This means they are going away from and are neglecting their child, especially emotionally. By unattuning to the negative aspect of reality, including the negative emotions, thoughts, and truths of their child, they are not responding correctly, nor are they responding to the actual issue, and so they will be able to do no right by their child. One of the most important things you can possibly do as a parent is to stop coping with positivity. Attune to your child and your child's reality instead, no matter how painful or scary it is, and then you will be able to do the right thing for them. Have a good week.